If it goes right, it's a slice. If it goes left, it's a hook. If it goes straight, it's a miracle. This is Out of Bounds. If it's happening in the world of golf, we're talking about it. Coverage, debate, discussion, pro golf and local golf. Let's do it. This is Out of Bounds. And here are your hosts, Nate Sharman and Josh Durso.
All right, welcome to the Wednesday edition of Out of Bounds. Josh Durso and Nate Sharman here, getting you ready for the Rocket Mortgage Classic. Nate, we finally have a break. Feels good. Feels like we have a bit of a real break in the action. We don't have to talk about an elevated event. How's that feel for you?
Yeah, it definitely is interesting, right? We feel like we've gone through like what you said on the last podcast, right? The gauntlet. These top guys finally get a little bit of chance to take a break. We see some of the top guys still playing, but not like your Rory, Rahm, Scheffler. They're not going to be in the field this week in Detroit, but still like Finau, Morikawa, some of those other random guys are playing too. So expect to see some low scores again this week, but we'll get more into that as we go along through the episode here today.
Yeah, we definitely don't hate that either. First, though, we got to start with our big five for the week. And we begin things with the news that kind of took the internet and social media by storm Monday morning, late Sunday night. The framework between the PGA and PIF, Live, DP World Tour, whoever you want to describe as being involved or whatever you want to call it. That documentation, which was only about 6 pages long, was not leaked. It's part of the hearings that are coming up in July. So it was just part of the filing. And of course, media outlets got a hold of it and released it. We don't have any explicitly new details with this, right? But the framework has been shared with the feds, and pretty much the looming question here is, will the DOJ or regulators swat down this merger? We've known there's going to be a new for-profit company. We've known the PIF is going to be feeding dollars into the PGA DP World Tours. Looks like they will be becoming a title sponsor potentially of one or more DP World Tour events, and it probably won't be PGA Tour events. The only thing that seems certain after you read through the documentation is that the PGA Tour is definitely going to have control over all new golf entities, whatever ones exist after this and whatever new ones are formed. And Live is going to have a tough time existing, it seems, at all. So, I know, Nate, you don't have a ton of thoughts on this because this is just more kind of minutia of us not really getting new information, just regurgitating and rehashing what we've already discussed before. But I do think the interesting question here is, will regulators swat it down? My gut feeling is that if I were going to be put on the spot and said, put like a percentage of how confident you are that this deal gets all the way through, and we're talking about a merged entity by, say, the beginning of next year, I would put my confidence level somewhere around 40%.
Yeah, I'm a lot more confident that this will go through. I don't think there's a I think there's a very small chance that the DOJ swats this down, just due to the fact that if they do turn this down, this puts golf and the PGA Tour in a really kind of pickle, right? Because if you're able to not have the PGA Tour controlling golf at the professional level, you're kind of, in my mind anyway, gift wrapping into the Saudis, right? You're kind of putting it out on the platter and letting them have, a lot of control. They do have a lot of money, obviously, and they are going to have control of golf, whether it's outlined or not, right? But being able to have the PGA Tour as the head of professional golf, like we've had for a bunch of years over here in the United States, is something that's really important. So I don't think that the DOJ is going to have in the back of their minds, right? We almost kind of can't, in my mind, turn this deal down because that just gives too much power to the Saudi Arabians.
Yeah, I agree. I'm more confident that it does get through. I have that hesitation because in terms of politics, this is a low political capital issue for anybody running for office nationally. Like the average voter, the average person does not care about professional golf. And there are a lot of issues that require a lot more political capital for folks who are worried about re-election in 2024 that they would much rather not touch and use this as kind of like an easy win. Again, that's speculation. That's me just kind of prognosticating based on what I've seen in politics and in America over the last 4 to 8 years. But yeah, I think in terms of what it would mean for the PGA Tour, it would be over. I think for the PGA Tour, if this deal were killed, it would basically mean the end of professional golf as we know it. And frankly, I don't even know if LIV would exist in the form that we currently know it at that point, because LIV would not only have to fill its own shoes, but LIV would also have to start to fill the shoes of the PGA Tour, because the PGA Tour is made it very clear that they can't continue on without that outside investment from the PIF. And obviously the PGA Tour cannot compete with the LIV money. So that is what it is.
Yeah, I don't even want to open that can of worms thinking that this deal is going to get shot down, because I'm pretty confident that it'll go through, and all the stuff that we've been talking about with this merger is going to kind of start to take place, and we'll figure out some more details as we go along, but still some notable news for sure.
Yeah. Our second topic here today involves the golf ball. We got Rory McIlroy. Mike picked up, he was talking after Sunday's round, and I'm going to read part of the quote here, and then we can talk about it, see what we think about it or feel about it. Rory said, quote, "I don't particularly like when a tournament is like this. Unfortunately, technology has passed this course by, right? It sort of has made it obsolete, especially as soft as it has been with a little bit of rain that we had." So again, like this conversation's going back to, limiting the golf ball and stuff like that. When we come to courses like this, they just don't present the challenge that they used to, end quote. Here we are again talking about rolling the golf ball back. Where do you come down on this? What do you think about the quote? And then I guess the broader point about rolling the golf ball back to preserve some of these golf courses.
Yeah, so we saw this quote after the tournament on Sunday, and I'm just a little bit confused with it coming out of Rory's mouth, because he said a year ago that birdies are better than bogeys, right? That was the sentiment from him. He doesn't want to see guys losing a golf tournament or winning a golf tournament because another player makes a bogey. And so this week we have a birdie fest, right? Keegan Bradley breaking the scoring record over there in Connecticut, and he doesn't like it. So I guess I think that's just kind of strange to me, and maybe there's the more meaning that I'm kind of getting in than I'm thinking of at surface level for sure. But I agree with his sentiment that the ball probably needs to be rolled back, because we're setting scoring records. We set a scoring record last week. I bet you we set the scoring record at Detroit Golf Club this week, 26 under par by Tony Finau. I think that gets passed. So I think I agree with Rory that we might need to do this golf ball rollback and kind of get into the mud of golf and kind of get it back to where it used to be, maybe a little bit to kind of entertain the viewers a little better than that. But I'm just confused, because what happens when the golf ball rollback gets accepted by the R&A, doesn't get accepted by the USGA, doesn't get accepted by the PGA Tour, and we end up playing, two different golf balls in 50% of our majors, and players have to adapt to that. So that's the only part I get a little bit scared about with the golf ball. If we want to roll it back, everybody needs to do it in my mind, or everyone needs to not do it. It can't be this 50-50 thing.
Completely agree. And I would also add this question. Why didn't Rory win this past weekend? If the course played so easy and long bombers had such an advantage this past weekend, why didn't he win? Yep. He's categorically the 1 or 2 or 3 longest drivers on tour, right? Why didn't he win? I'm just tired of listening. On one hand, I wish that the governing bodies would just make a decision, right? Like just make a decision, stop letting this conversation linger, and stop letting players have to keep like chiming in about it over and over again. It did sound kind of contradictory for Rory to, now complain about the golf ball in certain golf courses being passed by, but then saying, I think it was on more than one occasion, Nate, right? That he had said birdies are more exciting than bogeys. Like, I feel like he said that after a few events over the last couple of years. So there's that. And then here's my concern. Like, okay, we've rolled the golf ball back now. Probably in 15 years, we're going to have to do it again, because what we've seen in all sports is that athletes keep getting stronger and more athletic. That's what happens in sport. That's what happens amongst athletes. And if that's the solution, you're just going to have to keep doing this every however many years. And if you think that it's just going to be, because I've seen a couple different times now, I believe read a couple Golf Digest stories on this ages ago at this point now, or what feels like ages ago, months ago, that, this could set the tour up for 50 years if you roll the golf ball back now. Do you think anybody in 1995 thought that Tiger Woods was going to do what he did to the game of golf 3 years later? And what happens when, and I understand, like, Tiger Woods is the exception, not the norm. And we've seen a lot of players model themselves after Tiger Woods from the current and last generation, I guess you'd say. But it goes to that point of, we don't know what next is. We don't know what the next iteration of athleticism or freakish talent looks like in golf. So it's impossible to predict that if we roll back the golf ball 15 yards, or we take net 15 yards off of every golfer, that it's going to safeguard these shorter golf courses for any more than 10, 15 years, maybe not even that. You never know when your next big explosive talent's going to come up. And, I think that's basically where it's on the golf courses, to do more to make themselves challenging. And I don't think length is how you do it. I think you do it by making the greens faster. You do it by making the rough longer. You do it by making the fairways more narrow and making the rough more punitive. Yeah. You don't have to buy more property for that. There's all this talk about, like, we need to make, we need to allow these golf courses to not have to just keep expanding. Okay. You don't have to. Just make the golf courses more challenging.
Yeah, I agree.
It's crazy. But at the end of the day, at this point, and we haven't even heard a ton of it because the PIF Live PGA Tour stuff has kind of masked it. I'm already tired of hearing about this. I don't want to talk about rolling back the golf ball anymore. Just make a decision.
Yeah, no, for sure. And yeah, I just go back to my last point. It's got to be all the parties have to do the same thing, because we can't watch a rollback golf ball in the U.S. Open or the other way around, right? With the RNA at the British Open or the Open Championship. I think that would really make players mad if they had to play two different golf balls, and they just got to be able to figure that out and get all on the same page, which is, in my mind, easier said than done.
Yeah, and also one other note on this. I don't know if you felt this way, Nate, but I kind of, listening to some of the analysis from reporters and then an analyst for that matter, and then also listening to some of the things guys like Rory have said about rolling the golf ball back, it feels a bit woe is me for these long ball hitters to complain about the golf ball being basically too hot, right? When they're kind of just backing themselves into this argument that if you can't hit the ball 325 yards, you're not one of the best golfers in the world. I think we all know that golf's a little more than just how far you can hit the golf ball.
Sure. Yes.
Ask Bryson DeChambeau, right? And that, to me, is like when we start making decisions based on how far the most elite of golfers can hit the golf ball that impact everybody, even those guys who average, 280 instead of 320. That's when it starts to feel like we're making rules for the exception, not the standard.
Right.
I don't love it. I don't love it. That's all there is to it. Ryder Cup.
Coming up, the Ryder Cup will be playing in about late September over in Europe. Let's take a look at the U.S. team today. We're not going to officially say our teams yet as we get closer and closer. Guys still have time to auto-qualify. It goes to the BMW Championship. They take 6 qualifiers, and then 6 captains' picks will be announced by Zach Johnson after the conclusion of the Tour Championship in Georgia. So let's take a look at our top 6 right now. Scotty Scheffler, obviously number 1. He is lapping the field in terms of points. He has over double, or maybe about double, I should say, as the second place finish. We've talked so much about Scotty Scheffler on this podcast. He's just been doing it so consistently over the past 18 starts. So it's just unbelievable. So Scheffler's 1. Your U.S. Open champion, Wyndham Clark, is 2. Live player and PGA champion, Brooks Koepka, is 3. Sanders Schauffele at 4, Patrick Cantlay at 5, and for now, Max Homa rounds out your 6 auto qualifiers. If we were looking at it today, some other guys waiting in the wins. We have Keegan Bradley, Cameron Young, Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas, Colin Morikawa, and the list goes on and on. As this, it's going to be a really hard decision for Zach Johnson to think about who the 6 captain's picks he's going to be taking. But for now, there's some really, really good thoughts, because you have a guy like Denny McCarthy, who for sure isn't a household name, but he's just played incredible and over the last month or so. And he's one of the best putters on tour. So when you're thinking about like the Ryder Cup, right, you're thinking about team golf and how much putting means in that scenario. It's hard to not take a guy like Denny McCarthy, but it's also hard to not take a guy like Colin Morikawa, a 2-time major champion who's played in these team events before. Jordan Spieth kind of falls into that same category as Colin Morikawa, in my opinion, right now. Maybe guys that haven't won so much recently. Denny McCarthy hasn't either, but still, it's so hard if you're Zach Johnson to think, do I want to take young guys like we did last time where we were able to win very well, or do I want to take a little bit more experience?
Yeah. You know what? Like I look at this, I look at the top 6 and it makes sense, right? Like these are the guys we're seeing every week. These are the guys who are playing super consistent golf. We just talked about a couple weeks ago about Wyndham Clark and how even before him winning the US Open, how consistently he had been playing. When I look at the second 6, what would be that back half? I don't see how you can not include anybody who's won more than once this year. So like a Tony Finau, I feel like he would have to be on the team. If you just roll the calendar back.
Keegan Bradley too, then.
Keegan Bradley is another one. And also, you start to talk about guys who have been, again, really consistent. Ricky Fowler, Harris English, Denny McCarthy, you mentioned it. And unfortunately, I think that means there's going to have to be a decision here made where, a Jordan Spieth, a Justin Thomas, a Colin Morikawa, one or multiple of those guys are going to, they may have to be left out.
Which is crazy to me too, though. It's just such a hard decision because like Jordan Spieth's been a staple on the Ryder Cup for the past few years. He's de facto, in my mind, sort of the team captain, right? Jordan Spieth is one of those guys with the sort of pedigree to hold that sort of role. So keeping him off is just such a tough decision. I don't think I disagree with you, Josh, that a guy like Harris English, too, who was on the team last time, who played very well in the Ryder Cup, who's played relatively consistently, hasn't won, but played okay, is another guy that you can kind of think of, too. Cameron Young is in there, Sam Burns, who's won on the tour before. So it's just really going to be really hard. I know I've said that a few times now for the Americans to make this sort of decision, especially for the captain's pick.
I mean, I would say there's a pretty solid argument for Jordan Spieth based on what you just mentioned. Plus, also he contended at Hilton Head. I mean, he's one break away from being a winner this year on tour.
Right. There's still time for him to be a winner on tour. We still have another major and elevated events.
Exactly.
Playoffs.
Justin Thomas is another one. There's plenty of time for him to get back to where we're accustomed to him being. He had a good weekend this past weekend.
Yeah, I think he turned a corner. He played exceptional in the Travelers Championship those final couple rounds.
If he piggybacks off of that, the one who I think I really just can't make an argument for at this point is Colin Morikawa. I mean, he hasn't won on tour since 2018, 2019 season. And it was the Barracuda. Yes, he's a major winner, but those major wins came, in the 2019, 2020, 2021 season. So like to me, and as far as this year is concerned, he's got 4 top 10s all season.
Yep.
He's a guy who's just kind of like, hey, he's not even hanging around. I don't even want to say
we saw him at the Century right at the beginning of the season. That's the tournament. He was leading on the back 9 and John Rahm came and got him and Morikawa struggled down the stretch. And then he hasn't played his best game this season in my mind. He did play very well the second round of the Travelers. He shot 63, still missed the cut. He shot 74 the first day. So just kind of put himself in that tough situation. But that's another guy I think that I not necessarily put him in the same category as Justin Thomas with turning the corner, but I think the opportunity is there for Morikawa to play some good golf towards the end of the season.
Yeah, and I think, at the end of the day, a lot of these decisions probably should be made on if you're not an automatic qualifier, are you trending up or are you trending down?
And don't forget about Dustin Johnson. I mean, he doesn't get as many points because he plays in the Live Tour, but how can you keep a guy like DJ off the team who's got a worldwide win this year?
He should be on the team. There's no
he's not,
and
he's not on this list because he can't really accrue as much points. It goes to show how well Brooks Koepka's played in the majors this year because he's 3 and he's only played in 3 events that qualify for points. It's crazy.
Yeah, and there's almost no chance that he falls outside of the top 6.
No, I think he has to make the cut or something like that. Yeah, I don't know. I saw some statistic on it, but in my mind, there's no way Brooks Koepka is not on that Ryder Cup team. And that would be silly if he's off the team.
Right. But I would agree. There's another kind of element of this is that, DJ really should be on the team. Brooks will be on the team. So you've got 2 live guys taking up a couple spots. This is going to be really tough. And if you're asking me in September, assuming all things remain equal as far as what we're seeing out of players thus far this year, continuing through September, am I picking Colin Morikawa or Ricky Fowler to be at the 12th spot? If that's what it comes down to, I'm picking Ricky Fowler. Like, it's not, to me, it's not even close between where the 2 are. And it's that trending up versus trending down. And that's just kind of, it is what it is, but, plenty of time. Obviously, we're not going to get into the Euro team or anything like that. We'll talk about the Ryder Cup here in more depth fashion within the next couple of weeks for sure.
Yeah, Josh, I can't wait till we pick our teams here. We'll wait till the Open Championship happens and we get closer and closer to the FedEx Cup playoffs, and we'll have our team. That'll be a fun episode. Looking forward to that one.
Yeah. So let's talk about this. This might be my favorite golf story of the last 2 weeks. So there's been all of this rage around an Odyssey putter. So after the insane success of Ricky Fowler, Wyndham Clark, and Keegan Bradley, Odyssey, an extension of Callaway, announced earlier this week that a limited edition Jailbird putter would be released. Pre-orders actually just started a couple minutes ago. I think they started around 10 a.m. The original Jailbird, released 9 years ago as part of the Versa series, sold for $199. $169 if you got the very basic, not tour spec model. And I just checked a couple minutes ago to see what the pre-orders were sitting at. $399. $399 for the exact same putter. They're calling this a special edition because it's spec'd out to what those guys are playing, which is a slightly longer shaft, I believe at 38 and 39 inches respectively, along with a Tour 3.0 Super Stroke grip, which again is a standard grip that you can buy for like $30 at Dick's or Golf Galaxy or wherever else you buy your golf equipment. So $400 for a putter that is the same putter that was released 9 years ago. The secondary market has been absolutely on fire, Nate. I was perusing eBay just to see what was what, and I was seeing Jailbirds for like $700, $800, $900. Absolutely insane stuff, because obviously some people are going to the secondary market to see if they can find this putter for less. If you could find one 5-6 months ago before anybody knew that those 3 guys were using it and were going to go and win, you probably could have picked up one of these on eBay for like $100 or maybe even less than that, $50-$60, and thrown an extension on it and a Super Stroke grip and been out of there for $125. But now if you want this putter, which is a classic, and as an Odyssey guy myself, it's a really good putter. It's going to cost you big. It's going to cost you $400 plus tax.
So Josh, my question for you is not so much about Odyssey or the price point, right? But if you're Ricky Fowler, and if we don't know the story, it's Ricky Fowler has been using that putter and that sort of grip where he grips it high on the club for a little while now. And Wyndham Clark plays a round with him before the season even started. And Wyndham Clark likes the way Ricky putts. Ricky Fowler is obviously a really good putter. He has been his entire career. Do you think Wyndham Clark cuts his putter down, gets the same putter, pretty much a similar grip as Ricky Fowler, and then Wyndham Clark goes and wins twice this season, wins an elevated event, and then wins the U.S. Open? So it goes back to my question: do you think Ricky is a little bit upset or angry at Wyndham Clark that he basically copied him?
No way. And he did absolutely. He 100% copied him, because the hilarious thing is that Wyndham Clark actually shared the text thread. I saw it a few days ago where he actually texted the Odyssey rep and was like, I want Ricky's putter. And the rep was like, your specs, like what spec do you want? No, exactly his putter, 100%. So same grip, same length, same everything. And there was some joking going back and forth during that event a couple weeks ago, where Wyndham was saying he would have to get his modified again because Ricky had, I think, cut down an inch. He'd either gone down an inch or up an inch. So they weren't exactly the same anymore. So one was playing a 39-inch putter and the other was playing a 38-inch putter. It's just so cool. I think it's validation for Ricky. Like you said, he's always been, despite his challenges or I guess we're going to call it a prolonged slump that he had over the last 4 or 5 years. Despite that, he's always been viewed as one of the best putters of this generation. So, to me, it's that piece of validation for him that, clearly it worked. You got players left and right trying to copy, and now amateurs all over the US are going to be trying to do the same thing.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But people are going to go spend $400 on that putter, and I hope you putt like Ricky Fowler or Wyndham Clark.
Amen. July 4th, one of your favorite weekends of the year.
Yep.
Elite weekend to play golf. Why? Make the case for us.
So here in the Northeast, you generally get really good weather in July, right? Or that early July. If it does rain, it rains for no longer than about 7 to 8 minutes. You might get a thunderstorm that rolls through about 2-3 o'clock, but it's gone. And then you come off the golf course, maybe visit the pub at your local course, and you go back out and play, right? So I just think July 4th is such a fun weekend of the year because the weather is so nice. You have people off of work. July 4th falls on a Tuesday this year, so a lot of companies are going to give that Monday off. So you have a lot of times people are going to escape from work Friday afternoon too. So you have Friday afternoon, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday to play golf. And then a lot of times what I do is you play golf in the morning on one of those days. And then in the afternoon, you meet up with the rest of your family, or friends or anything. And you do your pool, you go to the pool, maybe go on the boat, barbecue, sort of picnic or something, and spend time with friends and family that way. So just an elite way to spend a great holiday in my mind is July 4th, and golf is at the forefront of it in my mind.
And I think I'm the complete opposite. So for the last few years, I've always taken a vacation right around July 4th. My birthday is a couple days after July 4th. And to me, it's an opportunity because, Nate, you and I, we play enough golf all year long, or at least I do. And the 4th of July is a very nice break. It's in the middle of summer. It's kind of in the middle of when we've been playing for a couple months. We've got a couple more months of good golf weather up here in the Northeast. That July 4th week, especially the weekend, is a great opportunity to not play golf. So that's where I am on it. I'm all for the boat. I'm all for the pool, the barbecue. I'll be down in Hilton Head where it's even warmer and stickier and steamier. But golf will not be on my agenda at all over the next 7 or so days.
And for the record, Josh, we always play in a golf tournament, right, on the July 4th weekend, and that's one we won before. And you're leaving me to go on a vacation in Hilton Head Island, so I don't know if I'll be able to forgive you for that, but I guess I'm going to have to live with it.
You're on your own this time, but I'm confident that you can get the job done. Just got to work on some of those fundamentals. Maybe spend a couple extra sessions out at the range.
That won't hurt. That never hurts,
right? All right, so let's talk about some elite golf that's going to be played in the next 4 or 5 days. Not just an elite weekend to play golf, but the Rocket Mortgage Classic. Nate, give us a rundown on what we have coming up.
We are over at Detroit Golf Club this week at the Rocket Mortgage Classic. 7,300 yards, par 72. So a little different than what we've seen the last few weeks, as we've seen a couple par 70s on the PGA Tour. Like I said earlier in the episode, we aren't going to see a lot of the top guys. Not going to see Rahm, Rory, Scheffler playing in this event, but we still do have some of the bigger names in Finau and Morikawa, Fowler as well too. So like I said earlier too, expect low scoring. We saw some storms come through the Detroit area. Actually took down a tree on the golf course where grounds crew had to go out and remove of that. So props to the grounds crew for always being at attention there. So It's going to be really soft and really play well for these guys. So expect a lot of birdies to come early and often. Former champion, last year's champion, Tony Finau, he was talking yesterday, and he says the goal is 30 under par. He says someone needs to get to 30 under par to win this golf tournament. So if you're not shooting 65 each day, then you're going to get passed. We saw that last week with Scottie Scheffler, right? He played really well, a couple 63s during the course of that tournament, but he had a 70 on Friday, and he's essentially out of the tournament, right? He was still able to top 5 as Scottie Scheffler can do. But in terms of winning the golf tournament, after that round on Friday, Scheffler was kind of by the wayside throughout that. But yeah, low scores are definitely going to be something to see this week. Last year, Tony set the scoring record at 26 under par. That'll be eclipsed this week as we expect scores to be around the 30s. But Tony Finau is your favorite as well, too, as the reigning champion. So looking at the rest of the top 5, you have Ricky Fowler at 14-1, Colin Morikawa also 14-1, Hideki Matsuyama 16-1, and Max Homa rounding out the top 5 at 18-1. Josh, let's get into the picks part of our episode. Who are you taking to win the Rocket Mortgage Classic?
I am taking Ricky Fowler. This is his week. We're going to put behind us he blew it, and the U.S. Open was his chance. We're going to put all that behind us. He's going to win, and that is going to be that. Book it.
He played really well last week. He shot 60 on that third round on Saturday in Connecticut too. I thought he made that shot for 59. He had a little chip just off the green, and it missed by a little bit of amount, but he still gave a good run at it to try to notch another 59 on the PGA Tour. Not many guys have been able to do that. I'm picking a guy that we've talked about in this episode. We talked about him in our Ryder Cup portion of the episode, Colin Morikawa. I know that's a little bit wild maybe to you, Josh, but I think he's been playing better as of late. We saw him play well in the beginning of the season, and then he went through a little bit of a lull. And now it looks like to me he could be kind of turning a corner, right? Shot 74 in that first round of the Travelers where they just made birdies after birdies, and then goes out and shoots 63 the next day. Misses the cut, misses it by 1. But I think Colin Morikawa figured something out in that second round at the Travelers Championship, and he's going to be able to parlay that into a little bit more of better golf being played at the Rocket Mortgage. So I'm expecting him to be around on Sunday and possibly get the win.
Yeah, and this is definitely, it's a non-elevated event, so favorites, of course, are favored, but there's a chance that a long shot could make a run. Who is your long shot? Who are you watching?
I'm going with Austin Eckroat, and he's played well as of late. I don't have the statistics in front of me, but he's been a guy that's been at the Memorial. He played very well. I believe at the U.S. Open, he played decent too as well. So I'm not going to be betting him outright this week. I think he falls around that 50 or 60-1 number, but I did already put on bet on him to top 20 this week at plus 220. I feel like that's great odds for the young guy to come away with a top 20 finish in Detroit at the Rocket Mortgage.
Yeah, I'm going with the 37th ranked player in the world. He's 49th in FedEx Cup points. He's got 3 top 10s, Sepp Straka. And you might be saying to yourself, why on earth would you pick him? Gut feeling, people. That's what these are all about. I'm not going to sit here and say that I have any great piece of data or information that points to him being the winner. It's just a gut feeling. I look at the odds, I look at where he's sitting, and I feel good about him winning. And frankly, once you get into the 30-1 plus odds, in my opinion, it's anybody's ball game. Any of those guys can have a good weekend and put themselves in contention on Saturday and hold on and win on Sunday.
Who's going to be able to put 4 65s together? I think if you can put 4 rounds of 7 under par 65, I think you're going to win this golf tournament. That will put you about 28 under, and I think that will sort of be enough to get it done. And maybe it isn't. Maybe you do need to shoot a stupid low number at this par 72 to win the trophy. But consistency is going to be key. Get that ball on the green and let's make some putts here. We'll see some birdies.
I've got one for you, Nate. Over under to win 27.5 under par.
Oh, it'll be higher than that. I think it'll be around, like I said, 28 may not even be enough.
You take the over on that?
65s may not be enough. You may have to get to that 30 number, like Tony said yesterday, and hopefully eclipse his scoring record. It's just so soft out there after the storms. These guys, when they play a soft golf course, they just eat it up. It's really not that long either. Par 72, 7,300 yards. So they won't have any problem with length, keeping in that fairway and giving yourself birdie looks on almost every single hole. So birdies are going to be plentiful this week in Detroit.
And
what about you? Over under 27.5?
Something we talked about last week. Yes, the course they played at from a pure length standpoint was shorter, but it was a par 70. So
Right.
you've got that differential. So yes, they were playing like, I don't know, what was last week? 67, 68
Yeah, I think it was like
yards.
68.
So yes, 500 yards shorter, but those 2 extra strokes on par make a big difference for these guys. They can.
That course was soft too,
running
so
up.
they got some rain before that tournament too. That's why you saw some low numbers. When it's soft out there, these guys are just incredible. They can make the golf ball do whatever they need to do on the greens, especially when you're getting that non-US Open green. The ball doesn't just roll forever.
All right. Well, so we're not going to have a podcast on Sunday, but you can keep an eye on social media and on the website. We're going to have results, analysis, the whole 9 yards. You want to check that out on TikTok and Instagram and also on YouTube. That's Out of Bounds Golf Pod. And then we will be back late next week with a more regular rundown of things. We won't have a pre-tournament episode on Wednesday, but Nate will have your preview. He might even have maybe some random picks for you to bet on for the next tournament. He likes
like
those. He likes those. But that is going to do it for us.
Enjoy Hill and Head, Josh. You deserve it.
Yes, I'll try to enjoy it. That's going to do it for this edition of Out of Bounds. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube for the latest golf news, new episodes, and plenty of other content. Remember, whether it's down the middle or out of bounds, keep on swinging.
You've been listening to Out of Bounds. If it's coverage, debate, or discussion of pro and local golf, we'll be talking about it. Be sure to visit the website. Find us on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. See you next time on Out of Bounds.